Okay, let's dive in. We've got some really interesting source material here from Gilles Deleuze and Felix Guattari. We're looking mainly at Anti-Oedipus and A Thousand Plateaus.
That's right.
And, reading through it, you immediately sense they're grappling with something. We all feel this constant rapid change all around us, in culture, at work, even just how we relate to each other.
Absolutely. Feels like the anchors are loosening sometimes, doesn't it?
It really does.
And what Deleuze and Guattari offer, particularly in these works, is this really powerful framework, not just to notice the change, but to actually analyze the process of how things change.
So today, we're getting into their big ideas. Deterritorialization and reterritorialization.
That's the plan.
Right. So our mission really is to take these terms, they sound maybe a bit dense, a bit academic at first,
If you can, yeah.
and unpack them using the specific examples from the source material. We want to understand what they mean and see why this way of thinking is actually, well, pretty radical for analyzing how the world keeps getting remade.
Okay, so to get a handle on deterritorialization, we first need to understand what they mean by territory. Because according to these texts, it's crucial to get this right. It's not just about, a map or physical land.
No, definitely not. When they say territory, you should think of it more like any stable, organized system.
A structure.
Yeah, exactly. A structure of meaning or behavior or identity. These are the sort of anchors we mentioned. They give individuals or whole groups a sense of coherence, a place, a sense of belonging, stability.
Precisely. They're the established ways things are set up, how they're supposed to work or be understood. The source material gives some great examples. A nation state, for instance.
Right.
That's a classic territory in their view.
Yeah.
It links people to a specific place, sure, but also to a language, a history, laws. It creates this defined group identity.
It anchors them. Or thinking smaller scale, like the example of a traditional family structure, with really strict defined roles, parent roles, gender roles. That's also functioning as a territory in this sense. It's a fixed system of relationships, of expected behaviors within that family unit.
Okay, so if a territory is one of these stable, structured systems,
Yeah.
then deterritorialization is the process that messes with that stability.
This is where things get shaken up.
Yeah, this is where the anchors start to loosen.
It's the undoing of the anchor, really. Deterritorialization is. It's when these established structures, the meanings tied to them, their boundaries, the fixed relationships, they get broken apart or displaced or just destabilized.
It fundamentally challenges the fixed way things are supposed to be.
Right. And what happens then? The sources say it's not necessarily about total destruction, is it?
No, not always. It's more about movement, fluidity. Things get pulled away from their original context, their original function. Boundaries get blurry.
This loss of rigidity, this sort of uncoding, as they call it, opens up space, right, for new connections, maybe new meanings to start forming.
Exactly. It creates potential.
The examples from the material really help here. Globalization. That seems like a massive deterritorializing force.
Oh, absolutely. Think about cultural symbols, food, language, consumer goods.
Yeah.
They're constantly being pulled away from their places of origin.
You brought up the McDonald's example. A McDonald's in, say, Tokyo has a totally different social meaning, a different symbolic weight than one in Chicago.
Right. Same brand, same basic product maybe, but its function, its meaning within that culture has been deterritorialized from its American roots. It's been re-signified, given a new place in that different context.
Or the internet. That's just huge deterritorialization happening all the time. Information, identity, how we communicate.
Massively so. The source mentions memes. Think about it. A meme starts somewhere, maybe Kenya, like in the example.
Yeah.
And then it travels. It gets picked up in Brazil, maybe Thailand. It gets completely reshaped, reinterpreted. It takes on totally new meanings that might have zero connection to the original context.
So its original territory of meaning just dissolves as it flows across the network.
Precisely. It's unanchored.
Okay, so deterritorialization is this constant force, pulling things away, destabilizing. But the source material is very clear. This almost never happens alone. There's another crucial part to this.
Yes, absolutely crucial. Deterritorialization is almost always paired with a reterritorialization. They happen together, like two sides of a coin.
So as things get destabilized, there's also this move to
What?
restabilize.
Exactly. Reterritorialization is the attempt to re-anchor, to restabilize, maybe redirect the very things that have been uprooted or fragmented by deterritorialization. It's trying to establish a new order, a new territory.
It's like the system, or maybe people within the system, are trying to find or build new reference points because the old ones are gone or shaky.
That's a good way to put it. Look at history, like the examples given. Empires collapse. That's a massive deterritorialization,
Yeah.
right? Huge political, economic, social territories breaking down.
Chaos. Yeah.
But what usually emerges from that, often it's new nation states. They become the new territories. They work hard to create new national identities, draw new borders on the map, set up new laws, new ideologies.
That's reterritorialization in action, creating a new stability.
Precisely. Or think about media again. Social media comes along, disrupts traditional media newspapers, TV networks.
Yeah, deterritorializes their authority, their channels.
Right. Their old fixed roles as gatekeepers get scrambled. But we didn't just end up in total media anarchy, did we?
No, definitely not.
New structures quickly emerged. New kinds of influencers gained power. Dominant platforms like Facebook or TikTok arose. Algorithms started shaping what we see. New norms about sharing and consuming information developed.
So that's the reterritorialization, a new media territory forming right where the old one dissolved.
Exactly. And the point the source material makes is that this isn't just some abstract philosophical game. This DNR framework, deterritorialization and reterritorialization, gives us a really potent lens to analyze very real changes happening all across society and culture.
Okay, like in art. The sources mention avant-garde art. That seems inherently about deterritorialization.
It often is. It deliberately breaks the established rules of genre, technique, even what qualifies as art. The example given is Duchamp's fountain.
The urinal.
The urinal, yeah. Taking an everyday object, completely deterritorializing it from its functional context in a bathroom.
And then reterritorializing it into the context of an art gallery.
Right. And in doing so, radically challenging the whole territory of artistic value, forcing people to ask what even is art.
Okay. And politics. The sources talk about migration, refugee movements.
Yes. These movements inherently deterritorialize the neat, fixed lines we draw around national identity and citizenship. They challenge strict immigration laws. They force societies to confront difficult questions about who belongs, who doesn't. They disrupt that established territory of the nation-state.
And the example of capitalism seems especially powerful. The material suggests capitalism almost runs on this cycle.
It really does seem fundamental to it. Capital is constantly seeking to deterritorialize. Think about moving production overseas, outsourcing labor.
Deterritorializing jobs from one country.
Or financialization, turning physical things, like houses, into abstract financial products that can flow anywhere.
Deterritorializing assets from their physical reality.
Or the gig economy, dissolving the old employer-employee relationship into flexible, temporary contracts.
Deterritorializing the traditional structure of work.
But, and this is the crucial Deleuze and Guattari point, it immediately follows up with reterritorialization. It redirects these flows, re-anchors them, but in new forms designed primarily for profit.
So the outsourced labor gets reterritorialized into new factories under new rules in different countries.
The financialized assets get reterritorialized into complex global markets, derivatives, new forms of speculation.
And the gig work gets reterritorialized onto digital platforms with their own algorithms, rating systems, forms of control.
Exactly. It's this relentless cycle. Break down old structures, capture the flows, then build new, often more fluid, more globally connected structures to channel those flows profitably.
So, thinking about the bigger picture, the philosophical implications, the sources emphasize that this whole idea is deeply anti-essentialist. What does that mean exactly?
It means it fundamentally rejects the idea that things, identities, meanings, social structures have some kind of fixed, unchanging essence or core nature.
They aren't just there naturally.
Exactly. They are made, they are constructed through these processes of territorialization. And if they're made, well, then they can be unmade through deterritorialization and then potentially remade differently through reterritorialization. Nothing is fixed forever.
Which connects to broader philosophical movements, right? Like postmodernism, post-structuralism, this idea that truth isn't just given, it's constructed, and meanings are fluid.
Absolutely. It fits right in with that line of thought. And Deleuze and Guattari's own perspective on this is quite interesting, according to the material. They don't necessarily see deterritorialization as a bad thing.
Really? Because it sounds quite disruptive.
It is disruptive, but they saw potential in that disruption, a creative potential, even a liberating one. Deterritorialization can open things up, allow for multiplicity, for hybrid forms, for new ways of being or organizing society that simply couldn't exist within the rigid old territories.
But there's a warning too, isn't there? It's not automatically good.
No, definitely not.
Hmm.
The sources point out it could be easily co-opted. We just saw that with capitalism, how it uses deterritorialization for its own ends.
All right.
And on a personal or group level, it can be deeply disorienting. If all your familiar anchors, all your points of reference are just swept away,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no chance to reterritorialize, to find new ground, that can be very damaging, leaving people feeling lost or adrift.
So if we were to boil it all down, summarizing the core ideas from the source material.
Okay, territorialization. That's the process of structuring things, fixing them, coding them into stable systems.
Got it. Setting up the anchors.
Then deterritorialization. That's the process of destabilizing, unanchoring, decentering, uncoding those structures, letting things flow.
Loosening the anchors.
And finally, reterritorialization. That's the attempt, often immediate, to refix, redirect, or recode things into a new arrangement after the old one's been disrupted.
Finding or creating new anchors.
Right. And the really powerful insight, the thing the material stresses, is that deterritorialization isn't just chaos or destruction. It's about breaking down old structures, specifically to open up space.
Space for what?
Space for potentially different arrangements of meaning, new configurations of power, new identities, new kinds of connections to emerge. It's presented as this fundamental tool for looking beneath the surface of events.
And seeing the ongoing processes of change and resistance and reimagining that are constantly shaping our world.
Yeah, it gives you, the listener, a way to look at almost anything, cultural trends, political shifts, economic changes, maybe even shifts in your own sense of identity, and see these dynamics of territorializing, deterritorializing, and reterritorializing at play.
It helps reveal the movement that's always happening under the surface, even when things seem stable, how everything is constantly being, well, made and unmade.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's leave our listeners with something to think about, drawing directly from this material. If deterritorialization is this constant force, always happening, and if it's almost always followed by some attempt to reterritorialize, what does that constant, seemingly endless cycle tell us about the deep tension in human systems? This tension between, I suppose, fluidity and change on one side and our apparent need for some kind of stability, some anchors, whether that's in our personal lives, our societies, our political structures.
It does seem like a process that never truly rests, doesn't it? Always moving, always reforming, something to really mull over.